In a vibrant village nestled among rolling hills and baobab trees, lived a handsome and wealthy farmer named Adik. He was married to a beautiful woman named Ada. For 5 years, their home was filled with love and laughter. But one thing was missing. The cry of a baby. Adikunal, once patient and kind, grew bitter. Village whispers, sharp as thorns, pricked his pride. He started calling Adama Barren, a word that wounded her deeper than any physical blow. One day, his cruelty reached its peak. He threw her out of their home, declaring their marriage over. Adama, heartbroken and shamed, returned to her parents' humble hut, carrying nothing but her dignity. Adikunal, however, quickly found a new bride. A young woman from a neighboring village named Funk. He planned a grand wedding, a celebration so lavish it would be the talk of the 7 villages. But Adikunal's heart was a dark and twisted place. He wanted to complete his victory with one final act of cruelty. He sent a messenger to Adama's home with an invitation to his wedding. It wasn't an olive branch. It was a dagger. He wanted her to witness his new beginning, to see the woman who would give him the sons he craved, to feel the full weight of her supposed failure. Adama's mother was furious. "You will not go," she declared. "Let him wallow in his own arrogance. Why would you subject yourself to such a spectacle?" But Adama, after days of quiet contemplation, looked at her mother with a strange calm in her eyes. "Mother," she said, her voice steady, "I will go, but I will not go empty-handed. I will go to dance." For the next few weeks, Adama did something peculiar. Every morning, she would go to the marketplace, but she didn't buy new clothes or fancy beads. Instead, she bought eggs. Dozens and dozens of them. She would bring them home and carefully hide them in a large clay pot. Her parents watched, confused, but did not question their daughter's strange resolve. The wedding day arrived, a blaze of color, music, and feasting. Adikunal, dressed in his finest robes, beamed with pride, his new bride Funk glowing by his side. He scanned the crowd, a smirk playing on his lips as he spotted Adama. She wasn't weeping in a corner as he had imagined. Instead, she wore her best wrapper, her hair intricately braided, her face a mask of serenity. As the celebration reached its peak, the drummers beat a rhythm that called everyone to the dance floor. Adikunal, feeling magnanimous, pointed a finger at Adama. "Let my first wife, the barren one, open the dance," he boomed, his voice dripping with mockery. A hush fell over the crowd. This was the moment of ultimate humiliation he had craved. Adama rose gracefully. She walked to the center of the circle, but not before retrieving her large clay pot. With a deep breath, she began to sing. Her voice, clear and sorrowful, told a story of a patient farmer in his field. For 5 years, she sang, the farmer tilled his land. For 5 years, he planted his seeds. But every season, the seeds were bad, and the land bore no fruit. The foolish farmer blamed the land, calling it barren. He cast the good land aside and sought a new field. As she sang, she began to dance. With each rhythmic step, she reached into her pot, pulled out an egg, and expertly tucked it into the folds of her wrapper, around her waist, under her arms, until her entire body was laden with them. The crowd watched, mesmerized and confused. What was she doing? Her dance became more energetic, more frantic. She spun and stomped, her body a whirlwind of motion. Then, with a great cry, she began to thrash about wildly. One by one, the eggs began to fall. Splat. Crack. Splat. They broke on the ground around her, their yellow yolks spilling onto the dusty earth like 100 failed sunrises. The guests gasped. Adikunal's face, once smug, was now a canvas of shock and dawning horror. Adama stopped, panting, standing in a circle of broken shells and spilled yolk. She pointed a trembling finger at her ex-husband. "You see?" she cried out, her voice ringing with power. "You see, Adikunal. For 5 years, you gave me bad eggs. You are the farmer with useless seeds. The land was never barren. The fault was never with the field, but with the farmer who planted it. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The truth, raw and undeniable, lay shattered on the ground for all to see. The whispers that had once condemned Adama now turned on Adikuna. His face turned from red to gray. Shame, hot and heavy, crushed him. He couldn't look at his new bride, Funk, whose own face was a picture of dawning realization and fear. He couldn't look at the village elders, who now stared at him with contempt in that moment. Adekunle was no longer a wealthy, proud man. He was a small, foolish farmer, standing in a field of his own making, a field of broken promises and public shame. Adama, on the other hand, stood tall. She had walked into her humiliation and turned it into her vindication. She turned, her head held high, and walked away from the ruined celebration, leaving Adekunle to the deafening silence of his own disgrace. Her steps were light, for she was no longer carrying the weight of a blame that was never hers to bear. She was free. And so, the story is told to remind us that the truth, no matter how deeply buried, will always find its way to the light. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. the heart of a vibrant African village lived a man named Adi. He was known throughout the lands not for his wisdom or kindness, but for his sharp tongue and immense pride. Adikuno was married to a woman named Amina, whose beauty was matched only by her gentle spirit. For years, they lived together, but their home remained quiet, for the laughter of children never echoed within their walls. Adikuno, consumed by his desire for an heir, grew bitter. He began to mock Amina, his words turning into daggers that pierced her heart. He called her Barren, a useless tree that bore no fruit. His cruelty knew no bounds, and soon he cast her out, shaming her before the entire village. Amina, with her head held high despite the tears that stained her cheeks, left the home she had built with love, carrying nothing but her dignity a year passé. The village drums began to beat, announcing a grand celebration. Adikuno was getting married again, this time to a younger woman from a neighboring village. One, he boasted, would give him 12 sons. In a final act of spite, Adikuno sent an invitation to Amina. It was not an olive branch, but a carefully crafted instrument of humiliation. He wanted her to witness his triumph, to see what he believed she could never give him. His friends advised against it, calling it a cruel and unnecessary gesture. But Adikuno laughed. Let her come and see what a real woman can do. Let her witness the joy she denied me. The news of the invitation spread through the village like a wildfire, and everyone whispered, wondering if the gentle Amina would endure such a public disgrace. To everyone's surprise, Amina accepted the invitation. On the day of the wedding, the village was a riot of color and music. Adikuno, dressed in his finest robes, beamed with pride, his new bride by his side. He scanned the crowd, his eyes searching for Amina, eager to see her face contorted with jealousy and sorrow. Then he saw her, sulked not with her head bowed in shame, but with a serene smile gracing her lips. She was radiant, dressed in a beautiful kente cloth that shimmered in the sunlight, but it was not her beauty that stunned the crowd into silence. It was what she carried. The music stopped. The dancing ceased. Every eye in the village turned from the bride and groom to Amina and the 3 beautiful children with her. Adikuno's jaw dropped. His face, once beaming with arrogance, turned pale with shock and disbelief. He stumbled forward, his voice a hoarse whisper. Amina, whose children are these? Amina looked at him, her gaze clear and steady. There was no hatred in her eyes, only a quiet strength. They are mine, Adikuno, she said, her voice ringing with a newfound confidence. After leaving the village, Amina had journeyed to a distant town where she met a kind merchant who saw the goodness in her heart, not just her womb. He was a widower with 3 young children who had lost their mother. He saw how Amina's gentle nature soothed them, how her love filled the emptiness in their lives. He married her, not for the children she might bear, but for the incredible woman she already was. In his home, Amina had found what she had always longed for, a family. She was a mother, not by birth, but by love, a love that was pure and unconditional. The merchant had cherished her, and under his care, she had blossomed. When she received Adikuno's invitation, her new husband encouraged her to go, not for revenge, but to close that chapter of her life with her head held high. Adikuno stood frozen, the laughter and congratulations of his own wedding feast turning into a deafening roar in his ears. The villagers stared at him, their whispers now filled with pity and scorn. They saw him not as a powerful man, but as a fool blinded by his own arrogance. He had thrown away a diamond, believing it to be a simple stone. He had tried to humiliate Amina, but had only succeeded in exposing his own foolishness and cruelty to the world. Amina, without uttering a single vengeful word, had shown him the ultimate truth. A woman's worth is not measured by the fruit of her womb, but by the love in her heart. And a family is not just built on blood, but on bonds of love, kindness, and acceptance. As Amina turned to leave with her new family, a wave of applause erupted from the villagers. It was a sound of respect, of admiration for the woman who had turned her pain into strength. Adikuno was left standing alone in the middle of his own celebration, a solitary figure in a sea of his own making. His new bride looked at him, a flicker of doubt in her eyes, perhaps wondering about the character of the man she had just married. The grand wedding feast suddenly felt hollow, the music soulless. Adekunle had his celebration, but he had lost something far more valuable. His honor. The story of Adekunle and Amina became a legend in the village, a tale told to young men and women for generations. It served as a powerful reminder that true wealth is not in possessions or heirs, but in kindness and character, and that sometimes the greatest victory is not in seeking revenge, but in simply living a happy, fulfilled life. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of wisdom.